investments that don't live up to expectations.
Tonight isn't just Thorne Corporation's night. It's also the night the truth comes out.
In part one of this story, we watched Ava Chen reach her breaking point. At the Thorne Corporation's glamorous gala, the man she grew up calling father, Marcus Thorne Sr., publicly humiliated her, labeling her a failed investment in front of hundreds of business elites. But instead of falling apart, Ava stood up. Calm and composed, she revealed a secret she had kept hidden for the perfect moment. Marcus Thorne wasn't her biological father. Armed with DNA results and a USB packed with undeniable proof of her contributions to the company, she dropped a bomb that rocked the entire Thorne empire. Now we move into part two. After the explosive gala, Ava steps out of the shadows and into the fight of her life. With the media buzzing, legal threats from Marcus, and smear campaigns led by her brother Ethan, Ava teams up with a powerhouse attorney and begins rebuilding her life from the ground up. But it's not just about clearing her name, it's about discovering who she really is. In this next chapter, Ava searches for her real father, reconnects with her roots, and finds strength in the truth. This is where healing begins. Alliances are tested, and Ava reclaims the narrative. Stay with us, because part two is where the real transformation begins. The following days were a series of intense meetings and critical decisions. Liam, true to his word, connected me with one of San Francisco's top female lawyers, specializing in defamation and commercial dispute cases, a woman named Sarah Holloway, known for her astuteness and tenacity. In her modern office overlooking the bay, Sarah listened to my story attentively, her intelligent eyes missing no detail. She reviewed the copy of the DNA results, the evidence regarding the algorithm, and the project I had on the USB drive. "Ava," Sarah said after I finished, her voice decisive, "you have a very strong case to defend yourself, and even to countersue if necessary. Marcus Thorne's words at the gala, coupled with Ethan Thorne's defamatory actions, could both constitute defamation. The DNA evidence is irrefutable. It will refute any claim that you fabricated it to bring down your father." Sarah outlined a clear strategy. First, send legal warning letters to Marcus and Ethan, demanding they immediately cease all slanderous activities and issue a public retraction. Simultaneously, we would prepare a defense against any legal moves from their side, including Marcus possibly trying to freeze my assets or sue me for revealing family secrets, something Sarah believed he would find very difficult to win. The USB drive containing my work evidence became a crucial weapon, not only to protect my professional reputation, but also to prove the injustice I had endured. While Sarah prepared the legal procedures, Liam and I didn't sit idle. The rumors Ethan was spreading began to have an impact. A few potential partners became hesitant. Some former colleagues started looking at me with suspicion. Ethan was trying to isolate me, to turn me into an outcast in my own professional circle. We decided to act wisely. Instead of engaging in a social media war, I began to directly contact key people, those I believed would listen to the truth. I sent them summaries of my achievements, accompanied by concrete evidence carefully reviewed by my lawyer to avoid breaching any confidentiality clauses. I didn't try to dwell on family matters, but focused on my professional competence and integrity. Liam, with his extensive network, also helped me connect and clarify many misunderstandings. It was an exhausting process, requiring patience and a cool head, but gradually the truth began to carry its own weight. A few former colleagues who had worked directly with me and knew my capabilities quietly voiced their support. Parallel to the fight to protect my reputation, another search was quietly underway. The image of Dr. David Miller, the biological father I had never known, kept appearing in my mind. My mother's account of him, a talented, kind man forced to leave his love, sparked a curiosity and a fragile hope in me. Was he like she described? Would he want to know about my existence? Liam helped me immensely with this. With the few pieces of information Isabel had provided, he found that Dr. David Miller was currently a leading professor of genetics at a prestigious university in Boston. He was married and had his own family. Looking at his public photos on the university website, I saw a man with a kind appearance, intelligent eyes, and a gentle smile. Something in his eyes made me feel a vague connection. The decision to contact him was one of my most difficult. The fear of rejection, the fear of disrupting a stranger's life, all made me hesitate. But then, the longing to know my roots, to understand more about a part of myself, won out. I wrote a handwritten letter instead of an email or phone call. I felt a letter would be more formal and sincere. In it, I didn't dwell on the bitterness with the Thornes. I simply introduced myself, mentioned how I had accidentally discovered the truth about my parentage, and expressed my wish to get to know him, if he would allow it. I didn't ask for anything, just a chance to meet the man who was my father. I sent the letter with an indescribable feeling of anxiety, not knowing what awaited me. During those tense days, Olivia remained a silent source of comfort. She didn't dare to publicly side with me, but occasionally she would secretly call or text, asking how I was and telling me a little about the tense atmosphere in the Thorne household, which was like a taut string. She said Marcus was nearly going mad, and Ethan was constantly demanding to teach me a lesson. These small snippets from Olivia helped me understand my adversaries better, but more importantly, they let me know I wasn't entirely alone in that family. A week after sending the letter to Dr. Miller, when I had almost begun to think there would be no reply, Liam brought me an envelope postmarked from Boston. My heart pounded as I recognized the handwriting on it. It seemed very careful and scholarly. It was Dr. David Miller's letter. Trembling, I opened it, not knowing if it would be a polite refusal or a new door about to swing open. The envelope from Boston looked simple, unadorned, but to me, it was heavy with unspoken emotions. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my hands from trembling as I carefully tore open the edge. Inside was a handwritten sheet of paper, the script neat and clear, showing meticulousness and perhaps a touch of a scientist. "Dear Ava Chen," the letter began, "I received your letter. I must say, what you wrote came as a complete surprise, and frankly left me somewhat stunned. I need a little time to truly process this information, something I had never imagined in all these years." My heart sank a beat. Was this a polite refusal? However, Dr. Miller continued, and the next lines ignited a spark of hope. "After my initial thoughts, I sensed the sincerity in your words. And if what you say is true, then indeed, we have a great deal to talk about. I don't know what Isabel told you about the past, but I want you to know I never knew of your existence." Those words, like a gentle incision, freed me from an invisible burden. He hadn't abandoned me. He simply didn't know. "I will have a short business trip to San Francisco next week, Tuesday the 15th. The letter concluded. "If you wouldn't mind, perhaps we could meet somewhere quiet to talk. Please let me know if that time works for you. Sincerely, David Miller." Tears welled up in my eyes uncontrollably, not from sadness, but from a profound sense of relief, a creeping joy, and the sheer anticipation of the upcoming meeting. He wanted to meet me. The biological father I had never known wanted to meet me. The meeting was set for a small cafe, tucked away in a quiet alley in the Nob Hill area, far from the noise and prying eyes. I arrived 15 minutes early, my heart racing. I chose a corner table where I could watch the entrance. Every time someone walked in, I held my breath. Then he appeared. Dr. David Miller in person looked just like the photos I had seen, but with an added warmth and kindness that pictures could never fully convey. He wore a simple striped shirt and khaki pants, holding a book in his hand. He glanced around, and when our eyes met, there was a slight pause from both of us. He smiled, a gentle smile, and walked towards my table. "Ava?" he asked, his voice warm and pleasant. "Yes, that's me. Hello. Hello, Dr. Miller," I replied, my voice trembling slightly. "Please, call me David," he said, pulling up a chair. "Thank you for coming." The first few minutes of conversation were a little awkward. We talked about the weather, his flight, small talk to break the silence. But then, gradually, the ice began to melt. David told me about his work, his passion for genetic research, about his small family in Boston, his wife and 2 grown children. He spoke of them with an unconcealed affection and pride. When I mustered the courage to ask about Isabel, about their past, David became thoughtful for a moment. "The Isabel of those days," he said, his gaze distant, was a smart, strong girl, but also bound by too many social conventions. We loved each other sincerely, but perhaps that love wasn't strong enough to overcome the barriers her family erected. When she abruptly ended things, I was heartbroken, but I respected her decision. I never knew she was carrying my child. And he looked at me, his eyes full of complex emotions. Looking at you, Ava, I see Isabel from her younger days, especially these eyes, the intelligence, and a certain determination. But he smiled. The way you analyze problems, the way you ask sharp questions, I see more of myself in that. Your mother has a brilliant analytical mind, but that spark when you talk about financial models, about complex algorithms, I feel that comes from my side. We talked for over 2 hours. I told him about my life, my passions, the challenges in my work, but I tried not to delve too deeply into the bitterness with the Thornes, at least not in this first meeting. I didn't want this precious encounter to be tainted by resentment. David listened attentively, occasionally asking insightful questions, showing genuine interest. There were no dramatic hugs or tears of reunion like in the movies, but there was an invisible connection, a strange harmony between two strangers who had just found each other. When we parted, David took my hand. "Ava," he said, "I'm very glad you wrote that letter. I can't change the past, but I hope we can build something for the future. Please, let's keep in touch." I nodded, a lump in my throat. "Absolutely, David. Me too." Leaving the cafe, my heart felt light. This meeting didn't solve all my problems. The fight with the Thornes was still ongoing. Ethan's slanders still needed to be answered, and the legal procedures with Marcus were still pending. My lawyer, Sarah Holloway, was still working diligently, and Olivia occasionally updated me on the tense situation within the Thorne family, where Marcus was trying every way to repair his damaged reputation, and Ethan was growing ever more bitter. But now, I no longer felt alone. I had found a part of my roots, a kind and intelligent father. And more importantly, I had found strength from the truth itself and from daring to face it. The road ahead might still be thorny, but I knew I was ready. The first meeting with David Miller truly opened a new chapter in my life. It wasn't a miracle that erased all scars, but it planted a seed of completeness in my heart, a sense of belonging I had never known. After that meeting, we kept in regular contact. Initially, it was cautious emails, then longer video calls where we shared about our work, good books, and trivial thoughts about life. David didn't try to play the role of a long-lost father, nor did he try to make up for the past. He was simply there, listening, sharing, and offering an intelligent and warm presence. Gradually, I discovered interesting similarities in our way of thinking, in our subtle sense of humor, things I had never found in Marcus Thorne. This belated father-daughter relationship blossomed naturally, without being forced, based on respect and a tacit understanding. Olivia also became an increasingly important ally. Though still living in the shadow of the Thorne family, she became braver in showing her support for me. Her secret calls were no longer just inquiries about my well-being. Sometimes, Olivia would intentionally or uncrucial information about Marcus and Ethan's moves. She said Marcus had to spend a considerable sum to settle with a few tabloid papers, trying to dig deeper into the family scandal, and that Ethan, after his initial smear campaign didn't yield the desired results, was becoming increasingly irritable and impatient. Olivia's quiet but steadfast support helped me feel not completely cut off from my past, and that true family affection could exist even in the harshest circumstances. Meanwhile, the legal battle and the fight to protect my reputation continued. Sarah Holloway, my lawyer, proved to be a formidable opponent. Stern warning letters from her office silenced many false rumors about me. More importantly, with the evidence from the USB drive I carried, Sarah helped me build a solid case, proving my competence and my real contributions to past projects. We proactively sent this information to key figures in the industry, people with influence and impartiality. Gradually, the malicious whispers about me began to subside, replaced by curiosity and a bit of admiration for the woman who dared to stand up against an empire. Marcus Thorne Sr. didn't sit still either. Through his lawyers, he demanded the return of company property, referring to the USB drive, and threatened to sue me for stealing trade secrets. But Sarah had anticipated all of it. We had ample evidence showing it was my intellectual property, created during my employment and even before. His efforts to freeze my personal assets were also effectively blocked by Sarah. Thanks to the terms of an employment contract, Marcus himself had once been very proud of for its tightness. Realizing this battle was not just legal but also mental, I started seeing a psychotherapist on Liam's advice. The sessions with Dr. Ramirez helped me unpack complex layers of emotion: childhood trauma, the obsession with approval, unwarranted guilt, and accumulated anger. It was a difficult journey, sometimes painful when facing truths about myself and my family. But with each therapy session, I felt stronger, more in control. I learned to accept the past, not to forget it, but so it no longer dictated my future. I began to realize my true self-worth didn't lie in what last name I carried, or whether someone acknowledged me, but in who I was, in what I believed in and pursued. Time passed. Stressful weeks turned into more stable months. My life no longer revolved around the Thornes. My relationship with David grew closer. We had a few more meetings, not just in San Francisco, but also in Boston, where I had the chance to meet his family. A warm family that welcomed me sincerely. Olivia and I also found ways to maintain our sisterly bond, despite the geographical distance and family barriers still in place. One weekend afternoon, sitting in my new apartment rented with my own earnings, a smaller but light-filled and peaceful place, I received an email from Sarah Holloway. She informed me that Marcus Thorne Sr.'s side had proposed an official meeting to discuss resolving disagreements. It wasn't an apology, nor was it a surrender, but it was a sign that perhaps he had begun to realize this fight wouldn't be as easy as he had thought, and that Ava Chen, the failure he had once publicly humiliated, was no longer a puppet he could control at will. The offer of an unofficial meeting from Marcus Thorne Sr.'s side didn't surprise me much. Sarah Holloway had predicted this. A man obsessed with control and his image, he certainly didn't want to prolong a noisy legal battle that could further damage Thorne Corporation's reputation. After a thorough discussion with Sarah, I agreed to meet, but with clear conditions. The meeting would take place at a neutral location of our choosing, and Sarah would be present as an observer, not participating directly unless necessary. We met in a private meeting room at a boutique hotel, not Marcus's territory, nor a place that evoked painful memories. Marcus came alone, without his usual entourage of lawyers or assistants. He looked more tired, the wrinkles around his eyes seemed deeper, and his once absolute confidence was now tinged with a certain awkwardness. "Ava," he began, his voice trying to maintain composure, "I think it's time we talked frankly, like two adults." I remained silent, waiting for him to continue. I no longer felt angry or hurt facing him. Instead, there was a strange calmness, an emotional detachment I had learned through therapy and my own experiences. Marcus beat around the bush for a while about unfortunate misunderstandings, about the pressures of maintaining a legacy, before finally getting to the main point. He wanted a ceasefire agreement. He wanted me to withdraw all potential allegations, to stop negative event impacting the corporation's image. In return, he would not pursue any legal action against me and would consider reasonable compensation for emotional distress. I listened patiently, without interrupting. When he finished, I looked him straight in the eye, my voice clear and without a hint of hesitation. "Mr. Thorne, what I want isn't money or a ceasefire agreement, so you can continue to live your lie in peace. What I want is for the truth to be acknowledged. What I want is for you and Ethan to take responsibility for your defamatory actions and the pain you both caused." I didn't demand an apology. I knew it would never come sincerely from Marcus Thorne. "I will not retract anything based on truth," I continued, "and I will continue to defend my reputation and my career through all legal means. That USB drive containing my work will stay with me. As for your legacy, I'm no longer interested in it." Marcus was stunned. Perhaps he hadn't expected me to refuse an offer he considered generous. The meeting ended without any agreement being signed, but I left with a sense of quiet victory. I didn't need his approval to feel my worth. I didn't need his forgiveness to find peace. As for Ethan, his attempts at sabotage gradually became futile. With Sarah's support and irrefutable evidence, we had step by step clarified the false rumors. A few key partners, after receiving full information, publicly expressed their confidence in my abilities. Ethan, facing the risk of being countersued for defamation, gradually had to back down. He was still there, an annoying thorn, but no longer strong enough to shake me. He had made himself irrelevant in my life. A more unexpected and meaningful change came from my mother, Isabel. After that gala night, she had nearly fallen apart. But then, perhaps facing the stark truth and her own pain allowed her to find a strength she never knew she possessed. She proactively reached out to me, not to beg for forgiveness, but to listen, to share. She told me more about her youth, about the pressures and fears that had led her to make wrong choices. For the first time, I saw a different Isabel Thorne, a vulnerable woman who longed for love, not just an elegant and distant statue. Our relationship couldn't go back to how it was, because how it was had been built on a false foundation. But we began to build a new relationship, one based on understanding and a reserved but sincere acceptance. One day she said to me, her voice trembling, "Ava, I'm proud of you, not for what you've achieved, but for who you are, for your strength and your forgiveness. I was wrong not to realize that sooner." Those were words I never dared to dream I would hear. My life gradually settled into a new rhythm. I continued to develop my career, but no longer with the obsession of proving myself. I worked for passion, for the values I believed in. My relationship with David grew stronger. He was not just a father, but also a friend, a wise mentor. Olivia and I still kept in regular contact. Our sisterly bond became a warm anchor. Liam, of course, remained an indispensable companion. I realized that family isn't just about people who share a last name, but those who love you unconditionally, who see your true value and stand by you even when you're not perfect. Truth, though sometimes harsh, has an extraordinary power to liberate. And true peace doesn't come from changing others, but from changing yourself, from accepting yourself and finding your intrinsic worth. The luxury car I once bought, hoping to buy affection, had now become a distant memory. I sold it, using the money to invest in a fund supporting talented young women facing difficulties. That was the truly valuable investment. Looking back on the road I've traveled, from that fateful gala night to today, I feel like I've been completely transformed. Not a glamorous external change, but a profound internal metamorphosis. The storm named the Thorne Dynasty swept away the illusions, the burdens, and the fears I had carried for so many years. And when the storm passed, the sky within me became clearer than ever before. Marcus Thorne Sr., after that unofficial meeting, seemed to realize he no longer held any power over me. The legal threats gradually fell silent. He remains a force in the business world, but to me, he's just a memory, an expensive lesson about never letting others define your worth. Occasionally, I still hear news about him through Olivia or in the papers, but that news no longer stirs any strong emotions in me. He has become a part of the past, a closed chapter in a book. I no longer seek validation from those unworthy, nor do I try to fit into a mold that doesn't belong to me. Success for me now isn't about impressive numbers on financial reports, empty praises from the crowd, or owning luxury items. Success for me is inner peace, the joy of doing work I love with complete integrity, and the sincere, deep relationships I have been and am still cultivating. My relationship with David, my biological father, has become increasingly meaningful. We don't try to make up for lost years, but cherish every present moment, sharing thoughts, experiences, and even plans for the future. Through him, I understand more about the value of humility, compassion, and a relentless passion for knowledge. His small family in Boston has also opened their arms to welcome me, giving me a natural and warm sense of belonging. Isabel, my mother, is also on her own healing journey. We still meet. Our conversations now have less awkwardness, replaced by greater understanding and empathy. She's no longer the passive, fearful woman of before. She's learning to confront her past choices and find her own voice. I'm happy for her change. Olivia is still my dear, adorable younger sister. Our bond wasn't affected by the family upheavals. On the contrary, it grew stronger. We are each other's emotional support, sharing life's joys and sorrows. And Liam, the best friend who always stood by me during the toughest times, he remains an indispensable part of my life, a testament to true friendship. I realized that family isn't necessarily about people who share the same bloodline. Family is where you find unconditional love, acceptance, and unwavering support. Family are those who see the real you, cherish your values, and walk with you on life's journey, through sun or rain. The biggest lesson I've learned, perhaps, is about the power of truth and self-respect. When you dare to face the truth, no matter how harsh, you will find liberation. When you know how to cherish your own worth, you won't allow anyone to trample on or dictate your life. True peace doesn't come from changing the external world, but from the transformation within yourself. Today, when I stand before the mirror, I no longer see a weak Ava Chen craving recognition. I see a free, strong woman who knows who she is and what she wants. The road ahead may still hold many challenges, but I'm no longer afraid, because I know that as long as I believe in myself, believe in good values, I can overcome anything. And that is the most precious legacy I have created for my own life. Time flowed gently on like a calm river finding its way to the sea. 2 years after that fateful gala night, my life had turned to a completely different page. A page I was writing myself with freedom and choices true to my heart. My work at the new investment fund, where I hold the position of Chief Strategy Officer, not only brought financial success, but also a profound joy in applying ethical principles and sustainability to every decision. We focus on supporting startups with vision, projects that bring real value to the community. The USB drive containing the algorithm from years ago, after helping me protect my reputation, has now been further developed and more widely applied, becoming a powerful tool in the hands of those who truly want to make a difference. Occasionally, I still receive collaboration offers from large corporations, but I always consider them very carefully, prioritizing those whose core values align with mine. My relationship with David, my biological father, and his family in Boston has become an indispensable part of my life. Holidays are no longer a dread of forced family gatherings, but warm trips to Boston, surrounded by people who truly love and cherish me. David's wife, Susan, a kind psychologist, welcomed me with incredible sincerity. His 2 children, now close friends, often share their joys and sorrows with me. We don't try to make up for the past. We simply enjoy the present, building beautiful memories together. Every time I see David's gentle smile, hear him speak passionately about new research, I feel a deep sense of peace and gratitude. Olivia and I still maintain a close sisterly bond. She has matured a great deal. After the upheavals, Olivia decided to pursue her own path, leaving the Thorne family business to work for a nonprofit educational organization. Occasionally, we still meet for coffee, sharing about our lives. She tells me Marcus Thorne Sr. has aged a lot. That year's event left an indelible scar on his reputation, though he still tries to maintain an air of power. Ethan is still the same, but his influence has significantly diminished without his father's absolute backing. To me, they are just names from the past, no longer evoking hatred or pain. My mother, Isabel, has also undergone significant changes. She has separated from Marcus and is starting a new life, freer, albeit somewhat quieter. Occasionally she calls me. Our conversations are no longer heavy, but carry more sincere sharing. She's learning to paint, a passion from her youth that she had to give up. I'm glad she has rediscovered a part of herself. The foundation to support talented young women, which I established with the money from selling that luxury car years ago, has now helped quite a few people. Each of their success stories brings me great joy and motivation. I realize that giving back, uplifting others, is also a way to heal and enrich my own soul. I no longer need to prove anything to anyone. My happiness doesn't depend on others' approval, but comes from satisfaction with myself, from sincere relationships, from meaningful work, and from living a life true to the values I believe in. The past has taught me invaluable lessons about the power of truth, self-respect, and the extraordinary resilience of the human spirit. Sometimes, on quiet weekend afternoons, I sit alone in my sun-drenched apartment, sipping tea and reading a good book. No more restless nights, no more invisible fears. Only peace, a true peace, that comes from deep within. And I know that this is the greatest success, the most precious legacy I have built for myself. The journey may have begun in darkness, but I chose to step towards the light, and that was the best decision of my life. And so, life goes on, no longer with violent tsunamis, but with the gentle ripples of simple joys and small everyday challenges. The journey to find my truth and fight for what's right, for me, has reached a meaningful final stretch. Old wounds, though never completely gone, have become lessons, reminders of the hidden strength within each of us. I no longer look back at the past with bitterness or regret. Every experience, no matter how terrible, has contributed to the person I am today. A stronger, more understanding Ava Chen. And most importantly, an Ava Chen who knows how to love and cherish herself. The legacy I want to leave behind isn't enormous figures or skyscrapers bearing my name. My legacy perhaps lies in the lives my foundation has touched, in the sincere relationships I have cultivated, and in the very way I choose to live each day, with integrity, compassion, and an open heart. Marcus Thorne Sr., Ethan, or the once illustrious Thorne name, are now just distant sounds, no longer powerful enough to disturb my peace. Everyone has their own path, and I have chosen a path filled with light where I can be myself, whole and unafraid. Happiness, I realize, is not a distant destination, but a journey, a state of mind. It's present in weekend mornings with David and his family, in late-night talks with Olivia, in the smiles of the young women I have the chance to help, and even in the quiet moments when I am alone with myself. And if there's one last thing I want to share, it is this. Never let anyone, any circumstance, take away your right to be yourself. Be brave enough to face the truth. Be resilient in protecting the values you believe in. Because in the end, your life is written by you. And each of us deserves a beautiful story, a story where we are our own hero. My journey may have closed a turbulent chapter, but the journey of self-discovery and living a meaningful life continues, every day, with new joys and challenges, and I am ready to embrace it all, with an open heart and a peaceful spirit.